All right, there we go, guys. All right, we have not been together as a group here, and we're missing one more person who's on his way, Mr. Chris Rimmer himself, Mr. Birthday Boy. But we have not been together, the five of us, to really talk in person about Zack Snyder's Justice League. So
I know. I've talked to.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I've talked to all you clowns. It's like Chris is the one that I'm like, I need to talk to Chris.
yeah,
I listen to DC Comic Squadcast, so I've heard all the reviews.
yeah,
Yeah. It was
nice
a fun
review.
it was a fun thing to talk about, and it was one of those things that as we continue to talk about, I wasn't even looking at the Audacity time, and then you get done, you're like, oh, all right, we're gonna have to cut some of this stuff out.
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
And
no,
we did not do that on fans. We did not cut
Oh,
anything
I
out.
jumped off after an hour, and then I download the episode. And it's like, oh, dude, you guys went for another hour and a half. Oh,
Yeah,
hell
we
no.
did.
I wasn't gonna be able
Yeah.
to stay for all of that.
I mean, it's me and
Mhm.
Ray. I mean, so obviously that was bound to happen.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
no, it's crazy. And fellas, since we've recorded our review, my wife has officially watched Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay.
Ooh,
Loves it.
good.
Loves
That's
it.
great.
It's her
Now let me
favorite
ask
movie.
you,
Ugh.
how general audience would you label her? Like on a scale of fan to don't know what the hell she's talking about. Where does she kind of land?
She's married to me, so I'm gonna say she's probably right in the middle.
Okay.
Like, she is invested in this as much as I am because she's listened to me over the last since BVS. So like pre-BVS, she watched me watch the second trailer. We all know which trailer I'm talking about, where it starts at the party a million times. And
Yep.
so it was since then we watched the movie. And then when the Ultimate Edition came out, she watched that with me. And so it's funny because like my in-laws side are very MCU heavy. And they
Okay.
like to, it's very much like the nitpicky on the DC stuff.
Oh.
But my mother-in-law is all about, she's like, I want to get in on what my son-in-law likes. So she watched Man of Steel and Batman v Superman with us. Like, didn't have any idea going into the movies and was like, I love these. She's like, can we watch the next one? And I was like, when it comes out. And that was before we had a date.
Yeah.
So it's going to be nice when I can actually go and see them, and she's going to be able to see it as well. But Lizzie is probably right around a 5. Knows a lot of what sort of happened with the movie in and of itself. And I guess somewhat has, okay, I'm going to put her at like a 4 in a sense of general audience, like, because she knows a lot of what's going on here too. So has a really big investment in these characters. She cried like 6 times during the movie and couldn't keep like sitting still in her seat. Like she was up and about. She's like, oh, this is going to happen. When's this going to happen? Like walking, like getting up, sitting on the couch. It was awesome. And so when it got done, she was like, when Barry has to do what he does, and she's like, oh, Barry, or like Cyborg, and she would just look back at me and just do the, the puppy dog live. And it's just, it was an amazing experience, fellas. I'll tell you. Yeah. And honestly, watching Wonder Woman 84 with her as well, when we did, like, watching these last 2 movies with her has just been awesome. It's fun to watch somebody experience something like that. That's how we want people to feel when they watch these movies, and to see somebody go through that is like cathartic for me. It's like, yes, you get it. I love you. Thank goodness.
I did not get a chance to have that in-person experience. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Happy birthday, by the way.
Hey, thank
Happy
you.
birthday,
Happy
buddy.
birthday.
Appreciate
Birthday
it.
boy.
I did not get a chance to have that same kind of in-person experience with Shonda, but I think she's definitely kind of the same ranges around Lizzie, 5 or 6. She's someone that she, like, her first real baptism to Superman was Smallville, but she really digs Man of Steel. Like, Man of Steel is like one of her favorite like comic book movies, period. And I've shown her the Richard Donner film. She does not care for the older films at all. She just it's very dated for her. And so she is, same deal as far as my knowledge is her knowledge with respect to the situation. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see, the reason we didn't get to see the Snyder Cut together is because she was still quarantined at the time. But she watched it on her own, and I didn't know this until she brought it up on a phone call. She goes, that was really good. And she was, and I could tell when she really likes the movie because she will pick things out. Like she picked out the waitress scene from like with Cyborg and like the stuff with Barry and Wonder Woman and like chopping his head off and all that. Like she knew details, and I'm like, if she knows details, then she loved it. She's good. So
my mother-in-law called me out of the blue, I think last Friday night. And all she said was, "Okay, explain this nightmare scene to me. What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh God, it's like I need to sit down with like BVS, like the BVS, the Vic.
Right.
It's like I need to like, okay, let me walk you through this. Okay, you remember this scene over here? Okay, that connects to this scene over here. So that will explain." She's like, "What? They're talking about like Lois is dead," and like. Yeah. Lois is dead. Superman's evil. The world's gone to shit. I'm sorry. It's like
I think that's been the awesome thing about this experience is that, like, even though we watched the movie together a week ago, she still has brought up, not every day, but almost every day, something different about the film that she either liked or has a question about that's marinated with her. So it's like living right up in here. And I'm like, that's awesome. I don't know, in a way that the other movies do, but they don't really come up unless like I'm watching it or something else happens. But even just out of the blue, we'll be sitting there. She'll be like, you know what I thought of in this is what happened here and so and so. And it's really interesting to me. And I find that a lot of people seem to be doing that, and which is awesome. It means that they've
Shonda, who also watches Supergirl, claims that the big reveal about Martian Manhunter, she's like, I knew it, and I was like, yeah, okay, you knew it. Right, because she digs Harewood's version on Supergirl, so she's familiar with the character from there, and like was not stunned when he revealed himself in the movie, but she claims that she knew it.
Awesome.
How about you, Chris?
What was the question? Sorry, I came in the middle of that.
Birthday boy, rock star. No, we're just asking kind of like, I mean, has your wife seen it?
She has not watched the whole thing. She came up on my third viewing. I think it was my third viewing. It's all a blur at this point, boys. But I think so. She came up and she watched the last hour and a half, maybe. She came in right before Silas takes the mother box and he sacrifices himself, and then she watched from then on out because she came in during that scene and she was like, well, this seems really heavy, because Ray Fisher does such a good job in that performance of his reaction in that, and she was like, is this gonna make me sad? I was like, yes, but also very happy by the end. So she's watched BVS with me. I mean, I don't even want to ask her how many times, because she'd probably just start laughing. Many nights that we'd come home from, like, back when we used to go out to bars and stuff, we'd come home and like I'd throw it on and she'd be like, again? Okay, here we go. She loves it. She loves it. And after we watched, that last portion of the movie together, she was like, I really need to watch the rest of it. We just haven't had time. She's a workhorse. So, but yeah, I mean, she asks questions even about that last bit. And her favorite part, honestly, was when Leto shows up at the end. She was like, I don't remember him being that scary. And also, you let Roscoe watch this scene? And I was like, it didn't really hit me how creepy he was until that watch, which, I mean, I think he's awesome. But like, I didn't notice him sitting there's the one part where he's just sitting in the background and he's just like half a smile, and he's just standing there like with these dead eyes and this crazy crooked smile. And I was like, that is creepy, man. Like, that's really creepy. And like, she was like, Daddy, this is wild. Yeah. But
Daddy, what's the reach around?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh. Luckily, Roscoe was distracted by something during that scene. So.
I'll admit that line threw me off when he said it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's a fitting line. I mean, like,
it works.
That's exactly Joker.
It did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to throw you off.
Yeah.
So.
I just still love I'm your best friend. I mean, just it still blows my mind that they weren't even together when that scene was filmed. Like they're giving those performances to, I think Jared Leto was giving his performance to Richard Citrone. And I don't, based on watching that little mini documentary that's been on Man of Steel and BVS on Apple and now is finally available on HBO Max.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go into the extras. It's there. It's about 24 minutes long. Not long enough for my taste.
Yeah,
but
for real.
Even when Joe was filming, it wasn't Affleck. I think Affleck totally shot his scene by himself. I don't think he was there with anybody.
That's weird. I thought we saw pictures of him and Joe together.
Yeah, I thought Ben was there with Joe.
Well, he's not. It doesn't sound like him. Like they have some behind the scenes footage of the additional photography, and it doesn't sound like him. Or if he does, he's also not saying the line that ends up in the movie.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is, Scott. I think that it's an alternate take. But yeah, I know that he wasn't with Leto, but I think he was with Magnet.
I think I've seen the same documentary you're talking about, Scott, but I think I've seen stills. I don't know where from, but like somebody.
And it's weird too, the different like sides because he's thinner, so he almost looks more like Richard Citrone does in BVS when you see him more in the Batman suit. So they do actually look really similar, especially now that Affleck is as light as he is.
You guys listened to Richard Citrone on Holy Batcast? He came back he talks about that a little bit.
I need to listen to that because it's their 300th episode.
Yeah. It's really good. It's really, really good.
I gave Andy a little bit of crap about, your Zack Snyder Justice League review was $2.99, huh?
Oh,
it was Andy. I had to. I mean, it's that's the beautiful part is over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, just the community that we've built up around here. It's just been fun listening to everybody else's reviews and listen to everyone else talk about it. I'm still not through all of it because I still need to listen to the 602 Club. Matt Rushing, he's been doing a whole series with the guests. They're called the Snyder Cuts. They've gone chronologically through every single one of Zack's movies.
Huh.
So I'm on Sucker Punch right now. I just started Sucker Punch today.
There you go.
That just had an anniversary come up, right?
Yeah, 10th anniversary. Yeah,
right.
Because it was 2011.
Which is crazy. That movie, for whatever reason, seems older than 2011, but it isn't. It's not older than 2011.
Like I always think it was like earlier in this, like
right?
in the knots, right?
You guys think
it. Yeah.
Well, think about it. Zack had 3 movies in 3 years because Watchmen was 2009.
Yeah.
Right.
Owls of Ga'Hoole was 2010, and then Sucker Punch was 2011.
Owls of
and then
Ga'Hoole
300 was 2007.
Yeah, that was 07. And before that was Dawn of the Dead, the first movie of his I ever saw. Owls of Ga'Hoole is still the only one I haven't seen. It's the only one of his movie I haven't seen.
Oh, you gotta! I know this is supposed to be a Zack Snyder Justice League discussion, but dude, check out the animation.
Yeah, the animations.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
What you'd expect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the whole thing, but I was able to start it while Roscoe was at school, and I watched about half of it, and it's incredible. A buddy of mine, it's not even really like he's not into it like we are as far as Snyder fans and the DC stuff, but like he's like, oh, I didn't know Zack Snyder did that. That movie's incredible. And I was like, okay, well, I need to.
No, I don't even know how he can say that. I mean, literally, Ray, someone could just play that movie. You wouldn't even know what movie you were watching, and you would go, yeah, Zack Snyder made this.
Well, it's obvious to me for sure. I was like, well, how? Yeah, but
because he's a true auteur, and that's the thing about like true auteurs.
Yeah,
you only need to watch a couple of frames to know what their style is, whether it's Nolan or Kubrick or Hitchcock, and in this case Snyder. And yes, I am mentioning him in the names of like great auteurs because it's one of those cases where like auteurs, like if you're going to be called an auteur, that's like very exclusive company. And it's not even necessarily a case of ranking them, which I guess you could if you wanted to, but it's really just signifying that you have a signature style that comes out in everything that you do, whatever it is. Like I would say the same about Spike Lee. He's absolutely an auteur. Scott, you still need to see more of his films.
I do need to still use it. But the point is though, is that these people have movies that when you hit play, you don't need credits. You don't need anything. I could walk by a TV and go, So and so made that movie.
Absolutely.
Even the Michael Jordan little thing that he did. If you watch that thing, you could just see the way he kind of like zooms in on the sign and just goes past the fence, and it's got that little.
Yeah.
Like even that, like it feels like it's Snyder. Like very early on, like I think that was the first thing he did, right?
It was his first short. It was the first short because he had done the music videos.
Yeah, he did the music videos before that
and the commercials.
Yeah,
and then he did the Budweiser Clydesdale commercial. Is like, it's like just, and now that you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's Snyder. It's so Snyder.
Right.
First of all, he loves horses. Second of all, it's the shot of going up, put the saddle on the horse. And then it's like all that montage of everything, and it's just like, of course it's Snyder, but it's one of the more memorable ones they used.
Back to
that was
the
a
film,
Super Bowl
guys.
commercial.
No. We're gonna chase some rabbits.
I wore out Michael Jordan's Playground, the VHS, when I was a kid. So when I found out retroactively that he did that, and I haven't seen it for years now, I was like, I've been a Snyder fan my entire life. This is amazing. Good to know.
Right.
So how did your guys' wives enjoy the film if they watched it, Tim and Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I explained this on our last episode. Like my wife, so I kind of consider my wife, like she's a fan. Like she'll watch these films with me. She's not like really into the Marvel because, like, when she was younger, she had watched like the Batman animated series, and so that was like her thing.
Yeah.
So she was always kind of like appreciated the Batman as a character. But she's not like wholeheartedly into this stuff. She'll watch them with me and all that. So we'll watch some of the Marvel movies. We'll watch the DC movies. She's not a big fan of the Marvel film, and I don't try to sway her one way or the other. And she's not like really into the Marvel films. Like she liked Iron Man, the first one, and then beyond that, she hasn't really liked a whole lot. So like that's just kind of where her head's at. And then she loved Man of Steel. She wasn't like super keen on Batman v Superman, but she loved Suicide Squad. David Ayer's theatrical cut of that. And then we had seen Justice League together, and she just kind of hated it.
Yeah,
rightfully so, right? And I mean, at kind of like how we both saw it together. When I saw it with her, that was her first time seeing it. It was my second time seeing it, and that was like after Scott and I had recorded our review for it. And I'm just like, I was just hating the thing, the second time.
Yeah.
and anyway, so that's kind of where she's been at. And, and then the other films, like she's been kind of on every film since then. But she saw this thing. And the thing about my wife, she can't make it through like an hour and a half before falling asleep, at night. By the time we get the kids to bed, it's like 8:30, and, she'll make it like an hour,
Yeah.
And that first night, I think we started at 8:30. The first time she was seeing it, she ended up watching 3 hours straight.
This movie does that.
Of this film. You can't stop watching it. And so we got like almost all the way through it. And I'm like, I finally just kind of like, Jamie, I'm looking at it. I'm like, you got to go to bed. Because I know if I would have kept her up later to finish that thing, like she probably could have made it, but like she would have really been a wreck the next day. So I'm like, okay, look, we're going to stop it right here. It was at like chapter 5 or something, whatever it was. And she loved it. And we finished up the next night. And then this past weekend, I mean, I've seen it like 4 times now, 3 times up at that point. And she's like, I want to see this black and white version. I'm like, well, don't you want to watch like Promising Young Woman? I was trying to convince her to go watch that new film. And she was just insisting she wanted to watch it again in the black and white. I'm like, damn right. That's my woman. So we watched in the same thing. We got through like 2.5 hours the first night. We just finished it up over 2 more nights after that.
Nice.
Little Beach Night. But she loves it. She loves the film.
That's awesome.
And I've talked to so many people, and I'll give Scott a chance here, but like I've talked to so many people even outside of my wife that are just like the general audience type of fans, and they're all loving this film. And they're like asking me, okay, well, when's the next one coming out? And I'm just like, man, I hate to tell you this, but this fucking studio doesn't know what they want to do, and they don't recognize when they have lightning in a bottle. And so anyway, that's kind of like my story. And Scott.
Well, I'm going to be kind of Heather enjoyed it. The problem was that she has the attention span of a gnat. And so like, because you guys know I got to watch it on that Saturday before it came out. So like I got the kids taken care. I mean, I made arrangements to where, my parents had the two older boys, her parents had the baby. I popped the popcorn, I had the drink. Like this was an event. I was waiting for my email with my code to watch it. And my wife is one of those people who, like, I want to take her phone. I want to fucking throw it across the room. And then and then I think she was like getting ready for like getting Easter stuff ready or something. Like she was like messing with things. And I'm just sitting there trying to watch the movie for my first time. This movie I've waited 3 fucking years for. And she's like, Russ, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna say a thing. I'm not gonna say a thing. And there would be moments like anytime, like the Amazon scene. I actually got her to shut up and actually like watch the Amazons because she loves Wonder Woman. Like Wonder Woman is her character. And then probably by about part 5, part 6, she finally kind of got done doing whatever she got done, because in her mind it's like, but I've got to get this stuff done. And I'm like, just watch the damn movie. I made arrangements so that we could watch this together. And in her mind she's like, well, I'm here with you and I'm kind of watching, like that counts for her. And I'm sitting there going, fuck off, just go. I'd rather you not be here. And then do what you're doing right now, because this does not count as you watching the movie. And especially if it was my first time, it was like, just go away. So, and she hasn't watched it again since. Now I've watched it. I'm up to 5 now, 4 times in color, and the 5th time being Justice is Gray.
Well, if you need to catch up,
I've seen it twice in color, twice in gray. Now, Scott, like the one thing about this is my wife's the same way. Like when we're watching a movie, typically she's on her phone just fucking around. I don't know what she's doing, but she's like doing whatever. She did not do that with this film at all, pretty much the entire time. Like, and it's so unlike her. She was just so riveted by this film. Which is rightfully so.
I would think that would do that for her, but I think it was the middle of the day, the kids were gone, and she just had a to-do list in her head, and come hell or high water, the to-do list was going to get done. And I'm just, and she was be like, well, I know you don't like me asking questions. Like, you're damn right, I don't want you asking me. Like, shut up. Damn movie. I always want to go, if you put your phone away, and it's like there was actually like that there was like a Babylon Bee article that came out that wife discovers that if you actually watch the movie, it'll answer all your questions.
It's really funny. It's actually throughout that whole week, I was just really excited to show Lizzie the film, but I didn't want to show it to her if she wasn't ready to take it in. So it was like every night we'd be sitting there and I'm like, it's like 6:30, and I would just like open up HBO Max, right? Because I have like Samurai Jack and some of the other shows and stuff on there. But I'd always just hover over Zack Snyder's Justice just a little bit.
To play the little trailer.
And she's like, well, we could watch this or this, or we could start Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I'm like, well, if you
insist,
it's your words, not mine. Do you want to watch it or do you not want to watch it? So it was funny because she was just like, no, I do. And ultimately it was like, I want to watch it, but I want to make sure that I have the time to make sure we get all the way through it. And also, I know when I started, I'm not going to want to stop. And with all the hype and everything, it was like kind of one of those things where it's like, I really hope that I love my husband, and I really hope that this sort of lives up to my end of the bargain. And we did it. We woke up Saturday morning nice and early, got some breakfast, made some coffee, sat there, watched it, shut all the windows and stuff in the living room. The dog was passed out. It was great. And just got to enjoy it. And the whole time it was like, same thing with the phone. Phone was on the table. Didn't go for it at all. It was just like,
it's crazy
on the couch. Like, what's going to happen? Sitting up, moving, laying down, getting up. It's just like,
so I'm kind of curious, where have you guys, I mean, because it's so weird to think about, like, we're a week away now from the actual release. I think part of my weirdness is that I did watch it twice before the actual official release date. So I actually have reached that. Like, I do want to watch it again. Like, I haven't seen Justice is Gray on my TV. I had to watch Justice is Gray on my iPad because I just, spring break, all the families that, like, I don't have the opportunity to, like, kick people away to watch a 4-hour movie. Because when I start this movie, I kind of want to just
go through it.
You're right. It's 4 hours long, but every time I watch it, I want it to be like it's never gonna. It doesn't always happen. But my goal is always like a 4-hour straight through watch. And so I think of my 5 times I've watched it, I think only 2 of them have actually been nonstop straight throughs. And but I have reached that point, I guess, because now that I'm back at work, I'm kind of on the hangover. I am experiencing sort of a Snyder cut hangover right now. It's been almost like a full week since I've actually watched the film. And now it's like, okay, I'm kind of jonesing for another watch now. I'm not one of these people who've watched it 17, 20 times. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. I don't have the commitment. I just can't do it. But I do find myself a week later, I'm ready for this weekend to hit. So it's like, can I watch it again? And it's so hard because it sacrifices so many other things that you're like, I still need to see Godzilla versus Kong and, and all these other things that I do legitimately want to watch. But Zack Snyder's Justice League is calling me and I want to go back to it. But I felt like I needed a little bit of a break because I felt like I went a little heavy on it for that entire week because I was being a good little soldier. But now it's like I needed a break so I can come back and appreciate it when I watch it for the 6th time.
My problem right now is if I throw the thing on, it could be 11 o'clock at night, and usually I go to bed by midnight, but I'll start watching a thing, and then all of a sudden I'm looking up and it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, fuck, and I got to get up at 5 in the morning. So it's I can't, I can't put the thing on and stop myself from watching it. Literally, I get so drawn into this film, I can't stop watching it. It's kind of a problem. It's to me, it's that good. When I saw this thing the first time when I finally got to see it, Tuesday, when was it Tuesday? No, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday would have been
morning.
When you finally,
when I finally got to see it.
Yeah.
When I finally got to see it and watch it, I was just in awe. Afterwards, I was thinking, I think this might be my favorite DC film. Well, I'm gonna leave the Nolan stuff out of there because that's a different animal. But in terms of all the shared universe DC EU films, I was sitting there thinking, I think this is my favorite film. And then after seeing it the second time, I'm like, no, this is my favorite DC EU film. This beats Man of Steel, it beats Batman v Superman, it beats Wonder Woman. For me, this thing is so watchable. It's just crazy how good it is.
That's interesting. I'm kind of curious what everyone else thinks because I'm going to be honest. I'm still sitting at BVS being my favorite, just for various reasons.
Okay, Scott. I honestly, from what we all knowing of our sensibilities, that does not surprise me, because you can kind of here's the thing. I have a problem.
Which one? I'm just
go on.
That problem is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I've 9 full times, not counting, and twice 2 of them were Justice is Gray. The problem that I am having is because of the 7-part structure, it is insanely easy to put your favorite part on, which in my case is Change Machine, and before you know it, I've gone through to the end, and not even paid attention, just with whatever. And it's and listen, I understand that as far as it's no secret, my time opened up recently. Everybody knows this within the last couple of weeks. So yes, I do have more time to just turn it on. But it could be I got the computer. I have watched Justice is Gray on my TV, and I had it on, earlier today. I had it on my phone. I was just sitting in bed and just had it on my phone. Just all right. I guess I'm watching this now. But it didn't even occur to me at all. There was just no sense of the rest of the world or time. It was
I know
the movie's on, and I am just watching. So I totally get where Tim is coming from. It's I've never done that with BVS. I've never done that with Man of Steel, and I love both of those movies. Those are movies that when we we talk about this when we do like Squadcast movies about like what our 5s are going to be. Well, those are going to be 5s when I get to those movies, but this is going to be like my 10 when we get to, I'm going to break the rules if we ever get to this movie.
You know how I say all the time on Squadcast movies that I don't believe there's any such thing as a perfect 5 film. Hang on, because this one I think is a perfect gorgeous. 5 for me. Yes.
Like it is. When you're sitting there, Ray, I totally know what you're talking about because I was doing this before we were recording this evening when it was like 8:00. I was like, all right, I'm gonna lie down in the living room while Lizzie's watching her show or whatever, and I'm just sitting here and this thing's like right in front of my face, and I'm just like, I can't see. I'm just like mouth open, jaw dropped, eyes are all bugged out watching it, and I can't not be enveloped in that world. And I think though part of that, fellas, do you think that has to do with the fact that we were able to marinate in the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman world for so long before this movie came out that we have such a connection to these characters that
certainly helps.
Now you're seeing it all pay off, but that wouldn't explain the general audience member at that point either, though. So
Scott made a point though a week ago, and Chris, I do want to hear what you think about this, but Scott made a point a week ago when we were talking about the critical reaction, which by the way, it's holding at 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. And so it is not, it's still there. And this is like a 290 something reviews at this point. So there's no question this is going to be his freshest of the films that he's done in the DCEU and one of the freshest, like for whatever that counts for. But one of the things that Scott was talking about was I agree with him on this, observing how oddly enough, we talked beforehand about like, you don't need to bother with the 2017 version ever again, just stick with this one. But so many of the reviews have started with, this is way better than the 2017 version. And I think for me personally, that is one of the reasons why this one connects with me, because all the stuff that I saw get misused 3.5 years ago, I'm seeing it used properly and it just means more. It just hits differently, right? Like one of the scenes, and it's so innocuous, but it's like the scene at the very, like towards the end where he's splitting apart the mother boxes and he yells out for Superman and Superman rushes at, remembering how badly that was mangled in 2017 and then seeing the right version here and then and it really all the Superman shots like that all the Steppenwolf attacks and everything, like just all of that is just like it just feels right. And it just it gives it more of a weight for whatever reason, knowing that like it's been fixed, it's been repaired, it's been made whole, So I think there's something to that. Chris, what do you think?
Just in general, like BVS, the Justice League, that's really hard because like me and Jordan talked about this a little bit. To me, Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League is this different thing. It is just, to me, it's a whole different thing than like BVS, because BVS was like a expectation versus what you see. And for me, it was this very quick journey over a week and, of like, how to feel about this movie. Like looking back at the theatrical version, it makes sense because it is, as much as I grew to love that version, Ultimate Edition obviously changes a lot of that. So it was just this journey of like, I'm just pouring through negativity, looking for positive thoughts and views on the movie and whatnot, which is obviously how I'm here. And it's like, it's just this, it's hard to compare because it was like a couple of years of like, of watching BVS constantly and being like, I think this is my favorite movie like ever, not even like comic book or DC or anything, just as movies that all exist, the library of every film that I've ever seen. I think BVS, especially after Ultimate Edition, I was like, I think this is like my favorite movie. And my friends were like, you're insane. You're crazy. I don't understand how's that possible. It doesn't matter. It just is. So like, this is like this whole different experience of like walking into it, like without this negative world swirling around me and being like, ah, fuck you guys. Like, I'm going to like it if I like it. And like, this is everybody's like so stoked and excited and like hyped up and like being surrounded by people that are excited for it. And like, obviously all of us, but then like our friends and stuff that we've made along the way, it's just like, it's this whole different thing. And it's just a completely different feeling of like, I didn't have to like, it's like I just had to punch through a brick wall to like find somebody that likes this movie. And this is just like, honestly, like a victory lap. It is like, it's just a celebration of the whole thing. But as a movie itself, I don't know how first of all, I don't know how they made such an amazing, wonderful like opus of a film out of comic book lore, but like who else could do it but Zack Snyder? And like on the flip side, and I don't want to like dwell on this, I'm just like, who the fuck saw this and said, you know what? Let's bring in that Joss Whedon guy.
I want the name of the asshole that called this unwatchable. I want his name. I want his name.
Well,
seriously.
I think we know who that is.
Yeah. So it's just it's hard to say. Like, I haven't gone back to watch BVS since Justice League came out, and I've all in all I've watched Justice League. I think, God, it's all running together, of course, but like I know I've for sure watched it 3 full times, and I want to say a 4th time. But I've gone back to just like you said, specific moments, and like I want to hear this, and like listening to the Junkie XL, his YouTube channel, he breaks down the scores and stuff. So like finding different parts of those scores and like listening to it with new ears, kind of that he's showed you track by track or layer by layer rather. That's been one way I've watched it. And then when Justice is Gray came out, kind of unexpectedly out of last minute rather, I of course started watching that, but I haven't had a full sit down with Justice is Gray yet. But oddly enough, I probably spent more time watching that version than the original one that was released, because I just kind of always have it playing on my computer. So every time I come up here, which is a lot, I will watch big chunks of the movie. And it's weird, but I think that like, I think I prefer the black and white version. It just has this rich, deep texture, and it gives this timeless look. And like, it just looks like this classic movie that it's almost timeless is a good word, I think, because it's like, I'd be like, did this movie come out 300 years from now and it's traveled back in time, or did it come out 300 years ago and it was just like this crazy invention of like filmmaking of it? Because it sits in this crazy space of looking like an old classic movie, but then having insane effects. And Ray, I think you said it too, like Steppenwolf's armor in the black and white, just
God, yes,
like his everything,
so gorgeous.
and it looks great in the regular version. I was like stunned when it first came out, and then the black and white, I was like, he just looks like, I don't know, it adds like literal weight to like the girth and stuff of his body, is what it looks like to me. It's just like, he just
effect of the
like
Flash too looks really cool in the black and white version. You see a little more reflective. And that's just playing with the light and the shadows. But
and like I've said also, VFX shots that bother me in the colored version, that they needed to bake a little bit longer, and it just, because of time and money, it just didn't happen. The Justice is Gray edition really covers a multitude of sins for me. I'm like, when I watched Justice is Gray, I was looking for it. Like, I know this scene bothers me. I know this scene bothers me. I know some VFX shot in this scene bothers me. And so I watched the Justice is Gray intentionally going, let's see how it looks. And like, I think it's the reason why Justice is Gray is kind of starting to fall down as like my preferred version of watching the movie, because it's going to help me get over that for myself. Like, I mean, Ray, you and I have talked a lot. You know that I'm not trying to be mean. I just have an eye when it comes to visual effects. Like, I see, if there are seams to see, I see them.
Right.
And I'm not even trying. It's just the way my brain processes what I'm looking at.
Right.
And so, and I know people sometimes ask me, well, what specifically bothers you? And I think I've talked about what's, the Batcave scene in Victor's Nightmare, with the reused Man of Steel shot. The reused Man of Steel shot doesn't bother me, but like the wide shot, like the way it's composited, like the color just doesn't work for me, or the green screen with Superman. There's a lot of the Superman fight at the end that doesn't quite click for me. But then when you go to Justice is Gray, nah, I'm good. I'm over it. It's like whatever the black and white does to it washes that away for me. Yeah. And it also makes me feel better knowing that, like, Zack says that the black and white version is like his, preferred version to watch. And without being a suck up, I have my own reasons for myself finding Justice is Gray to be that. And it's been interesting because there's been enough people who responded to me, because like when I came out the day Justice is Gray came out, and I was like, dude, this is the definitive way to watch it. It's the best looking version of the movie. I really do love Justice is Gray. And it was interesting that I got a lot of pushback from people, some people who had seen Justice is Gray, some people who hadn't, that basically their argument was, but color. And I was like, y'all need to grow up and watch some black and white movies, because I grew up watching a lot of black and white movies, so I'm okay with black and white.
Well, as a second data point on that, real quick, so I'm in agreement with you, Chris, and obviously Scott and I had talked about this. Like, I prefer the black and white edition, and it's not to say that I don't like the color. I love both of them, but there is something very special about that black and white. And so now my wife has seen it twice. She's seen it in color and black and white. She actually prefers the black and white. So.
I don't know if I necessarily prefer the black and white over the color, but I love that we have the option. Mm-hmm. And I love that we have the option. I love the way that HBO Max actually marketed it, mm-hmm. with the whole idea for years, this is how he watched it. Like, mm-hmm. I just like that. I like that whole tagline mm-hmm. that they came up with it. But one of the things that I've noticed, and it's I have to be careful when I say this, because I don't really film elitists. I don't like film elitists at all. But sometimes you just get into a mindset where someone says something, it's like, watch some more films, please. Yeah. And it's because when people just say color, like with Justice is Great, or the other thing that they've complained about is they don't like the shallow depth of field in the nightmare scene. And I'm like, guys, that's a film. He did that mm-hmm. on purpose. It's not bad visual mm-hmm. effects.
No, I actually
please watch some more movies.
It's one of my favorite shots in the movie because of that. And I think one of the things that makes BVS still my favorite is I just love the Larry Fong cinematography. Like, I love the way Larry Fong makes a movie look. And that's not a slight against Fabian Wagner. It just, like, Justice League is its own thing, and I just have a preference for the grit and the colors and the blacks and all of that's in BVS. But I think that's why the nightmare scene at the end speaks to me so much, because when you watch that conversation between Batman and Joker, and I know that Zack's the DP and he's using that dream lens, which he mm-hmm. uses on Army of the Dead. So May comes around on Netflix. I'm so ready for Army of the Dead. But that gave me visually something to just go, ooh, I like this. Like it's lens flare, but it's not like mm-hmm. J.J. Abrams lens flare. It's like a different kind of like lens flare going on there, and the camera constantly trying to get focus.
It's not mm-hmm. quite rack focus. It's more like controlled autofocus.
Yeah,
which is something that they tell us all the time in film school, like, turn the autofocus off. Don't never allow autofocus to make the decision for you. It will screw up so many
mm-hmm.
of your shots.
Absolutely.
And in this case, he didn't have autofocus turned on. He was doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a purposeful choice that he was making when he did it. But it's interesting, because one of the things, and I brought this up in the review, like, I did the marathon. I did, because I wanted to see the progression. I wanted to organically see the progression mm-hmm. of these three films from Man of Steel through BVS Ultimate Edition to Justice League. And I think that that's really kind of helped me in two ways. One, just reaffirming what everybody has said in terms of the energy that the movie gives you. I was yawning several times through BVS. This is at after midnight, and this is leading up to the 3:00 release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And so about around 3:30 was when I started the movie, and all the yawns went away. Like I was all of a sudden tired was not a thing. And before I knew it, the sun was coming up and there were birds chirping. And then as soon as the movie was over, I got to go to bed. As soon as the movie was over.
Well,
but
I never got to say on any of my reviews because I kept on forgetting about it. But I remember, Ray, I talked to you in the car as you were calling me son of a bitch and a few other things because I was like, I've seen the movie. and it was funny because, I was on 24 hours for my second COVID shot. And
right.
I didn't feel any of that during the movie.
But you were feeling it beforehand. You weren't certain. You were not certain how that was going to go.
It wasn't even that bad though. Like even before the movie started, it was more just ow, my arm hurts like a son of a. But then the movie was going on, and the movie's going on, and then when the movie was over, I think all my adrenaline, all my endorphins finally crashed, and the next thing I know is like, oh, I feel like shit now.
Oh yeah.
God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I not from a COVID shot, but just in general. Yeah, no, I didn't get out of bed later that day till like after 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon for sure. Yeah. But just to see the, and that's where with what Tim is talking about in terms of this being like the best DCEU film, it's like I level set. I level set, and that was the second time in 3 weeks that I had watched BVS because of the BVS Comes Home event back on March 6th. Right. So I level set. I was like, okay, where is all the, and one of the things that you also said, Scott, that I want to point out, you called it a blockbuster.
Yes.
You said Zack Snyder made a blockbuster. And I think that's a very apt way of describing it because out of the 3 films, this is by far the most accessible. This is what, and that's what also makes the rest of all this crap with Warner Media so maddening because he literally told you this is where he was headed. He literally told you that you were going to get to the hope and optimism that you wanted. And what do you know? It's all over this movie. This movie is 4 hours and 2 minutes of hope and optimism. Yeah. Seriously, if you can't find it, you need to rethink your life.
Look at Batman.
It's all there.
I'm sorry. And no iteration of Batman that I have grown up loving, when I see Batman going, I'm operating strictly on faith. Yeah. And that line is he's walking onto the flying fox going, faith, Alfred. Faith. No iteration of Batman that I have grown up with sounds like that isn't Adam West. I'm sorry. That's not Batman. I'm like God Bat, Grant Morrison, I'm a part-timer. I don't want to be here. That's always that's my Kevin Conroy Batman. And when we talk about who our Batman are, if you really had to put a gun to my head and tell me who's your Batman, it's Kevin Conroy. That's my Batman. And he was never that hopeful. He was never that optimistic. It wasn't his character. He had his moments.
Right.
But I'm sitting here going, this is a Batman that I've never personally experienced. And I'm saying, and you didn't want that? You wanted that dumbass goofy smile and I did not like you bullshit that I saw in 2017? Go screw yourself.
Well, it's just and that's another part is just the how the humor in this film,
it's hilarious,
was organic. And it was real, and it was born out of situations, and there wasn't nothing in the film was forced.
No.
The one thing that people have brought up a bunch of times, and I will continue to hit this point home because it didn't occur to me until somebody pointed this out. But the fact that you don't really have any, there's no massive animosity between any of the team members at all.
Yes.
No.
And what's crazy about this is in some of the other, in the other franchise, in those team up movies, there is animosity, right? And it's placed there, and I'm not saying it doesn't work for them. Clearly they found a way.
No, it's what their universe, go back to the source material. That's how, that's baked into those characters' It's how they operate. It's how they always operated. So it works for them because that's their universe. That's their sandbox. Those are the rules they play by.
Right. You see enough of those and you don't even necessarily think of the fact that this entire time, like, you watch this, I think it's the third or fourth watch, I'm like, they're not really fighting with it. There isn't even one of the things that I expected that they were going to do was kind of the whole treating Flash like a kid rookie thing. That didn't even happen.
No.
He was an equal among all of them.
Well, and it's because the stakes were genuine and they were so high that none of that, like any kind of like backbiting or fighting amongst each other would have been inappropriate. Any kind of forced humor would have been inappropriate. Everything felt like it was correct. Like it felt like this is how these kind of people would act.
Yeah.
When the stakes were this high. And that's what was so great about this.
I think that's the thing. And that's actually the thing that Lizzie told me watching the movie. She's like, oh, there are legitimate stakes at play. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes everything kind of come together. Like it's one thing after another, and it just builds
over
on
me.
I was waiting. I was waiting for someone to say
I
that.
gotcha. Yeah,
I'm glad Jordan finally got there. That's
I gotcha. It just it does, and that's I think. I don't know. That's the thing that frustrates me when we go back and we talk about how I don't see how people don't get as involved in these stories, and I would make the same argument for Man of Steel and BVS. Like stories are are compelling, and maybe it's just because of all of our backgrounds. We have an investment in these characters, but also in just we like to take that next step deeper, like Zack does. I mean, there's not a frame that he doesn't shoot where there's not some sort of double entendre behind it. And I think that's one of the things too that we really enjoy. He just gives you so much. He gives you so much to that Jordan. You can go in and nitpick and look at, and that you find different every time. Every time I watch one of his movies, I'm like, why is this different this time? I just saw this movie. Like, why is this different?
Well, Jordan, to your point, it's like the man knows we're going to be rewatching his movies.
Yeah.
And it's layered in there. It's like the people who says, well, if you have to watch a movie multiple times to get it, then the movie did something wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm a reader. The whole point is that every time I read it, I'm supposed to find something new and different in it. And it's just amazing, whether it's thematic, whether it's a visual, whether it's a little Easter egg planted in the corner somewhere where I go, because I'm not looking at this the whole time. I'm allowing my eyes to wander and look at the rest of the screen. I suddenly go, oh, there's the bassinet. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Did not catch that the first time. Everybody saw the pregnancy test because he lingered on it for 10 seconds. Didn't see the bassinet at the end.
Or hear congratulations, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that, but I thought he was talking about the wedding. I thought he was talking about the ring. I didn't know he was talking about
go back and listen to our review. I questioned, is he talking about the engagement or does he know about the baby? And of course, if I had seen the bassinet those first couple of times, I would have been able to answer my own question. But once again, the movie made me ask the question. I didn't automatically assume he was talking about the engagement. I lingered and thought, does Bruce know about the baby?
It's just, as a fan of movies and any kind of like media or whatever, it's like it's fun to learn new things about things that you're interested in. So I don't know why anybody would want, it's like if there's nothing more to gain from one watch, then it's just kind of like, and that all has its place. I'm not criticizing anything or anybody really. It's just more like, what is the Man of Steel Answers is like for those who like to chew your food. It's that kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, isn't it nice to see something you didn't see before? Like it doesn't negate like a movie because you learn a lot from multiple watches. It's like, if anything, that gives it more value.
Right.
More data to mine from the story. That's never a bad thing.
Well, it's just like the people that, like when you get into the whole argument of the theatrical, nothing will ever replace the theatrical experience. The theater is the only way to experience this. So then you don't watch any movies at home. You watch nothing at home. You don't buy no Blu-rays, no digital, nothing, right? Like you've never watched a film in the comfort of your own home ever again. Like it's only the theater. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. Just to have, because there is so much that like it's such a lazy cop out to just be like, the first time is the only time. Oh, really? Okay. So so if you have a short attention span, or if you've got issues, or if you had to go to the bathroom, that's the movie's fault. All right. Whatever.
Well, and for me, it's like, I think one of my orders of the new remastered 4K of BVS is finally arriving tomorrow. I have been waiting freaking forever for
mine finally came in yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Which one? Is it Amazon that finally showed up?
It was actually Target is the one that I ordered from.
Well, Target shipped, but Amazon's going to get here before Target. So
okay.
Mine was delayed was the thing. It was like the day it was supposed to come out and be delivered. It was like, sorry, your order's been delayed and it will be here whenever. And then
pretty much everyone's.
It showed up earlier than their like new projected date. So I was like, okay, well, thanks, but you're still a little late. But whatever. Hey, got it, and I put it in the steelbook. So
it's nice that they updated all the digital.
Yes,
so
that is nice.
That's awesome.
I do like that.
Yeah, I mean, I could just log right into Apple TV and just pop that sucker on, and I'm like, oh.
I checked it that day and was like, oh, nice. All right.
I like the color. Cool. He changed a little bit of the color as well too in certain aspects, and it's like the fight scene, the Batman Superman fight in particular, just not that it didn't pop before, but it just was this time around. You're watching.
Have you listened to the new commentary track?
Yeah,
I have not. No.
Oh, I've made it to. I've been listening to that, and I made it to the bat is dead, bury it. Like, do you bleed? You will. Like that's where I stopped with the commentary, and it's just, once again, it's like. I've already listened to him do one commentary to this movie before, and I've watched this movie. I've lost count how many times I've watched BVS, and it's just amazing listening to his commentary going, shit, I'm still learning new stuff, which is why, man, director commentaries are like a lost art these days. Like no one does them anymore, and I eat that shit up.
To reference a name that on the day of us recording this, we've heard too many times today, Ava DuVernay. That's one of her classic stories, is that was like her film school, director commentaries. Because seriously, if you just open the brain and listen to what they're telling you, you can unpack a ton in terms of what went into this shot, what went into that shot, how they did this, how they did that. And they will literally teach you so much of what they do and the craft to like, you'll get a pretty solid understanding of what they're looking at and what aesthetics are and depth of field and balance and, how they, had the stunt rigging or where they put the camera and why it was important for this extra to be here. And commentary tracks. Yeah, unfortunately, Scott, I feel like, the audience itself in many ways, and we deal with this a lot because of, the discussions and arguments we get into on social media. A lot of the audience today has gotten really just one note, and they're more interested in like the Entertainment Tonight interviews than they are in, with the cast and talking about what's going to happen in the next film, as opposed to how this shot was composed in the film that you just watched. Right. It's like people aren't necessarily conditioned for rewatchability anymore. They're not open to that. It's like one and done, consume this and move on to the next thing as quickly as possible, instead of like chewing your food and savoring it for what it actually is.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it will be like? I really do believe we'll get a director's commentary for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Can you imagine what that's going to be like?
I want that, but I got to be honest with you. I want his commentary on Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Oh God,
he never needs to see that movie.
It's
what?
so awkward to listen to interviews.
He said he might see it someday. But
it's so
God,
awkward
though
to listen to interviews when people ask him that question. Are you willing to watch the version? And he's just like, no, not yet.
But he said,
and they're
no,
like,
he
too
he
soon.
had said,
and it's like, what do you think, man? Like, yeah, come on.
It's like the fans who bring up things that were Joss Whedon editions, and you're like, why are you asking Zack about that shit? Don't you have a brain to figure out?
Don't ask him about the Russian family. Don't ask him about the thirsty lion. No,
it's like asking a band about somebody that's been replaced in the band when the new cast, like the new bandmate, is right there in the room, and you're like, "So do you guys miss this person?" And they're like, "Well." You're just like, oh, it's Michael Scott. It's
it's
hard.
Asking the original member about the guy that replaced him.
And the reason they're asking is because they want the awkward reaction, right? They want they're looking for tea. They're looking
for
tea.
There, man. Live there.
No, I'm with you on that, but that's what that's why they ask Snyder these questions. They want the tea. They want him to just go nuclear on Joss Whedon and talk about how stupid the Russian family is and how horrible they want that. They want those quotes. They want that, for clicks and clout and whatever else. Like,
can we talk about, he did answer one thing in an interview, and I can't remember the interview off the top of my head. But somebody had asked him about Superman when Superman's eye beam in Batman during the Heroes Park fight, and it's the last part. And why does he stop when Lois comes running over? And it's because it
was cinema blend. It was real. It was the real blend guys. Cinema.
Okay, they asked. All right, yeah.
Because he sees that there's a Kryptonian fetus in Lois, and you're like, oh, and then it makes it all the more. When you have that context and you're watching it, I mean, it's beautiful when you're watching it beforehand, but then to actually to watch his facial expressions even more so, and they start, and why he's you start to see everything coming back, and then you see the tears, and then you see all it's just like, oh, and then you're feeling it with him. You're like, there he is, he's back, and this is crazy. And of course, only Zack would think to do something like that. It's crazy.
Well, and I saw some people that actually were complaining that they don't like that because it takes away the importance of Lois. It's like, no, it doesn't. Shut up. But the funny thing is because later there's that scene after Silas's death. There's the scene where Arthur, who really, I guess out of anybody in the team, he's the one that has the most pushback of anybody. He's constantly telling them more than anybody else, this is a bad idea, and so he's in the middle of his father's dead because of us, I told you waking him up was a bad idea, and that's not actually Superman, like mind and powers maybe, but it's not him. And then Batman's like, it is him. He recognized Lois Lane. Who? The woman he loves. Nah, it's called instinct, Diana. And it's like, he didn't he just said it was called instinct. And it didn't even occur to me, oh, that's what he's talking about. It wasn't so they were both. So in one, and the way that I look at it is they were kind of both right. I think, yes, he did recognize Lois for sure, but he also recognized the baby. And that's the instinct that Arthur is talking about, which goes further into his whole arc in terms of the whole father thing and what he's witnessing with everybody else's fathers, which is why in the scene that perfectly lines this movie up with Aquaman, I don't care what anybody says, and he where he's got to go see his dad,
my father.
It just closes that loop for him, and it's just another one of it's the little things. It's the little things that this dude does in these movies that it's like, you don't get it on the first watch, but on the second, third watch, you're like, he thought of that too? Wow.
Yeah, that's got Chris Terrio all over it, by the way. Chris Terrio was so good when it came to these little tiny details. So, guys, can we talk about some of the news that came out today? I want to hear everyone's collective thoughts on this.
Okay.
So we got
all right,
and we'll talk about this on our respective shows, but it kind of ties into whether or not this is going to go any further here in the Snyderverse. All right, so we found out today that, it first kind of came out like Ava DuVernay kind of put up a smoke signal, basically saying that there's going to be something about New Gods that the studio is going to announce.
And it's important to note that the smoke signal came from. It actually started with Ray Porter.
It's
because
3 hours earlier.
Yeah, 3 hours because he was imploring people to stop attacking her on social media, which she she gets attacked for way more than just DC stuff on
Right.
social media because of her
Right.
political stance and other things that she's done. But he posted that she quote tweeted that with the smoke signal that you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So that is an important distinction because this really did, of all the times she could have interacted with Ray, Porter, today, she chose to do it, after he put out that tweet a few hours earlier. And then she did her tweet basically kind of hinting at like,
something's coming.
Something's coming, and we were all kind of inferring that like maybe this is disappointment on her end. We really weren't sure. We were trying to parse
at
through
this
it.
point. Anything coming from WB, we just assume is going to be disappointment. Let's be honest.
It's going to be disappointment. Yeah. So that was a conversation we were having in our group chat, and then eventually all the trades came out with their reports, basically saying that they're not doing the New Gods film at this time with Ava DuVernay and Tom King. They're not doing the Trench film with James Wan. I guess
which we hadn't heard anything about in like 2 years.
It's been a while.
Like since they announced it, we'd heard like it was radio silence.
Which was weird because I'm sorry, just looking at the list of quote in development projects on the DC Film Squadcast show notes, it's been really weird to go, oh, we finally can actually like officially cross a couple off the list. Like
we never cross any off.
I actually just struck them through because I was like, wow, we actually officially heard we're not doing this. They never do that. Things just fade into obscurity and people forget that they were even mentioned, except for our show notes exist and we have them all there.
Okay, so that happened
the last 6 years.
So that happened today, and so there's nothing, and I haven't parsed through every article yet, but I don't know that there's anything that really says like that. Does this also include anything that Zack was doing with the New Gods? There's nothing that says...
Hollywood Reporter tries to throw Zack Snyder's Justice League under the bus.
Yes,
supposedly saying, well, they'd want some distance from another interpretation
of commentary.
Right.
But that's the point. Yeah. But that's the point. Like that's just complete BS. Yeah. We have like 5 Batmen. I mean, it's
that's bullshit. Anyway, there was that, and then just a short while ago, Zack posted it was a concept piece of this design of Granny Goodness. Yeah. So all of this, guys, all this kind of like transpired today. Tinfoil hat. I feel like Chris Wong right now. Tinfoil hat. Like, are you guys making anything out of this at this point? And I'll give you my quick thought. So. And Ray, you brought it up right away. It was like the fact that this was a response to Ray Porter implies to me that he was clued in to something as well.
Yeah. Okay. I've been talking to people on Twitter about this all day. But like where I'm at with it is I want to believe, but my brain is telling me don't get my hopes up.
Because that's what we've had to live the last,
I
would say the last almost 5 years of just, I think what we would say are mostly bad decisions by Warner Brothers.
Yes, and that's really the crux of it right there. Warner Brothers has earned absolutely zero benefit of the doubt whatsoever when it comes to anything DC related since 2016. There's no question about it. So I would love to believe. I would dearly love with every fiber of my being to believe that they are looking at these hidden numbers that they won't disclose for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they're going, shit, we have to do sequels. And they're having their little, emergency powwows about it, and they're keeping everybody in the dark, but they're sitting and they've decided, okay, well, if we're going to do that, we can't do her New Gods movie, which is stupid anyway, because you could still do it if you wanted to.
Let's be clear. When it was decided that she was going to be doing a New Gods film, that happened after they made a decision that they were going to strip all of the Dark Side and Granny Goodness and all that and decide strip all that stuff out of Justice League and make it a self-contained, Steppenwolf is this. I think they even called him like a conqueror of worlds or something like that. It was like, other than, and I'm surprised they actually kept the one reference to Darkseid in that Joss Whedon cut, because they clearly made a decision to just kind of strip everything out, and then like they were going to be done with anything with the New Gods, and then like shortly after that, that's when all the discussions with with Ava DuVernay was happening, and they basically greenlit that she's going to do a New Gods film. So like that decision was made back in 2017. That 2017
was 2017. Okay,
so 2018 was the announcement for Ava's film.
No, what I'm saying is in 2017
they
made the decision that they're stripping all that stuff out of Zack's film. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Warner Brothers, and that's where I was like starting to think, okay, wait a minute, I'm starting to piece this together. When Ava said, that a recent decision, that decision was made back in 2017 to go in her direction with New Gods. And when she was referencing like a recent decision, I'm like, well, that decision was made years ago. So this must be a new decision that they're not doing her. And then sure enough, that's how it came out.
And Zack has mentioned in an interview too that his sequels would have included all of the
he said one of them was going to be like largely New Gods.
That was going to be part 3. He said that Justice League Part 3, the finale, was going to be a New Gods invasion movie. Mm-hmm. But when he mentioned it, he still continued to really only mention a lot of the Apocalyptians. Like it was going to be like you're going to have Barda and the Female Furies and all of that.
He didn't say anything about Highfather.
He didn't say anything about he didn't say anything about New Genesis.
Right.
So that's where I always thought Ava's film was still going to be able to fit in.
I agree. That's what I thought she was going to do. I thought she was going to come at it from the New Genesis side.
Right. Because she talked about Barda and Mr. Miracle and like that was right, because it really just seemed like Zack was just playing with Apocalypse. And Zack really wasn't going to go play in the New Genesis sandbox. And dude, you got all kinds of stuff when you bring in New Genesis, because you've got Orion and Mr. Miracle and the Forever People and the
Forager,
and Metron
Racer and
all of that.
Right.
So I thought, oh no, Ava, once again, I'm not even thinking multiverse. I'm just thinking the freaking DC universe.
Right.
Like just we can.
I never quite saw it as that. I kind of felt like, if Ava was going to be given a chance to kind of tell the story around the New Genesis side, like it invariably is going to involve the Apocalypse side. Yeah. So like I'm on a
similar train of thought, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like that the plan was like to allow whatever Zack was doing to continue on.
Well, no, Zack was gone by that point.
I know.
So
that's what I'm saying. I feel like she had full reign to do whatever she wanted in the fourth world,
So the question now is, what is Warner Brothers' primary motivation for axing this, if not Zack Snyder's Justice League? What could the other reason be?
Here we are. We're getting our hopes up again, guys.
We can't do this. No,
How many times have we done this to just have the heart crushed inside our body?
You are 100% right, and that's the problem. That's the problem is when you try to figure out logic with these idiots.
I know.
And what they're doing, it's out the window. There is nothing. It's like I was discussing / arguing earlier with Corley about what WB's plan is, and he was intimating there's a lot of speculation centered around the Flash movie. And this whole idea of it being a reset button for them to really start this chasing Marvel plan, which I flipping hate that idea, because it's not a race. There's no race.
The problem is that I can't argue with it anymore, because it's so obvious that that's what Warner Brothers is doing.
Okay, right. Chase it. You're right. It is obvious they're doing that. However, I am unwilling personally. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I am unwilling to believe he thinks that everything that we're seeing from Warner Brothers in terms of announcements constitutes their plan. When I look,
there is no plan.
No.
Precisely.
I don't think we believe that.
Right.
But that's fine. So, he can have his opinion on it.
Okay, but no, you're right. He can't have his opinion. You're absolutely right, Tim. That's very true. However, I do feel that for that whole idea, this goes into what you guys think is in Warner Brothers' head, and how far do you think the rabbit hole goes with them? Because I don't even believe, I'm unwilling to say that they even know enough about what Flashpoint is to use it as a reset button. I don't think they know that or care. I think it's literally just what that movie's going to be about. I don't see this grand idea where, okay, we got the Snyder cut out of the way. Now we can use this Flash movie to reset everything and really get on a good foot to chase Marvel. I don't see it being that organized.
So Ray, I kind of look at it this way. I kind of feel like this might have been the case. Like maybe they were trying to envision what the Flash movie was going to be a few weeks ago. After the way this film has been received, and after how this thing became into the zeitgeist of the public and all the people, you not only have all the hardcore enthusiastic Zack Snyder Snyderverse fans that are just mostly all into this film and are so enthused and excited about finally seeing this thing, but now you're getting all these other people that you haven't
critics.
You're getting the critics. You're getting the general audience. You're getting Marvel fans right now. Like some of the people I've been talking to were like, they're just like, oh, they just like the Marvel films because it's kind of catered to a general audience type of fan. But
it's more.
They're
accessible.
seeing this and they're seeing this film and they're like, wait a minute, there's something special here, right? So this is the new reality. And I even think that Ann Sarnoff article that came out on that Monday, that was supposedly recorded on Sunday, a couple days after.
Wasn't. There's no way. There's no way that
I don't think so.
Sunday.
But all that stuff is kind of like the pre-318 reality. And I kind of feel like I feel like the earth has been shaken in this past week. And with all this stuff about like the numbers that clearly they've got to be seen, and the question is like, why are we not getting an announcement? Well, I don't think there was a plan to do an announcement, but now if they're saying we need to capitalize on this thing, they're not going to be ready to make an announcement anyway, guys, because it's not just a matter of just saying, yeah, we're going to greenlight this thing. You have a lot of questions you have to answer. You have to answer, are we going to get all the actors back that we want? Are we going to get them to buy into this thing? There's a lot of there's all these contracts that would have to be worked
when
out.
would you even schedule it? Because you do have movies.
You do have movies, yeah.
for the next couple of years. So
okay,
it would be a minute.
And then the plans, whatever plans they have, which none of us know what these plans are because they're not articulating them. And you're looking at the things that are making the news, nothing really seems to fit together. So it's like we're not piecing anything together about whatever DC Films plans are at this point. But if they're making a decision that like this is a corner of the universe that we can't ignore, okay, and if they've made a decision that okay, we need to somehow go forward with this. Now they got to figure out all these other plans they had in place. Like, okay, what's going to be sacrificed? Is it going to be New Gods? Is it going to be the Trench film? Is it so? How does that fit in with what they're doing with the Batman? I just saw a reference today that they're saying the Batman's going to be Earth 2, right?
That was a Screen Rant piece.
That's
right?
a Screen Rant piece, right?
Came out with that.
Yeah.
Said
so I don't know if that's
Earth 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really some of the discussion that they're hearing. But anyway, all these things of like got to be happening right now. You can't just turn on a dime and say, "Yep, we're going to go do this," because there's all these other things that were in motion, and now I feel like they have to be reacting and trying to figure out, okay, what exactly are our plans now? Because we got this new lightning in the bottle that has suddenly hit. So what do we do with it?
And you're about to get an infusion of some really crazy talent coming in with some of the new films and stuff too. So you're only going to bring in more general audience members. And I'm specifically talking about Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, with just his audience that he has. People will go to see a movie because they go, oh, The Rock's in that movie. I'm going to go watch that movie. Like all of that stuff as well. So when you have the popularity, like you guys are getting me excited over here, man. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to jump on the excitement train.
We're trying not
like,
to, but yeah.
No, I know, but it still is. It's one of those things.
I'm not on the excitement train because I don't believe it. I am jaded. I am cynical with anything that comes with Warner Brothers. I do not trust them. I don't believe at all that they will do anything that is in my best interest as a fan at this point. And when it does happen, I'm going to swear it happened on accident, or it happened because 3 years ago, Matt Reeves held someone's balls in a vice and said, I will walk away right now unless you give me all the power over my movie that I want, because he did walk away, but you get you get filmmakers like James Gunn, who, I'm sorry, I look at the Suicide Squad, that's a James Gunn movie through and through.
Mm-hmm.
There is no denying it.
None.
And
with either trailer.
With either trailer.
Yeah.
And the one I like and the one I didn't like, you know, it's just like how much, because there's a certain level of James Gunn I can take, and there's some level of James Gunn I can't take. But at least I'm intrigued by going, okay, so where's Suicide Squad gonna land? Because I got two completely different trailers that've got me in two completely different mindsets.
Probably somewhere in the middle.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
so hopefully the dick joke is gone. That's what everyone's hoping. Everyone is hoping that dick joke is gone.
Well,
it's not going anywhere.
And then you get Matt Reeves, the Batman, that like I legitimately have enthusiasm for. I legitimately
my God.
hype for. Yeah. And dear God, Matt Reeves looks like he's doing something. But then the part of me goes, I'm looking at that fandom trailer for the Batman, and damn, that thing looked dark as shit.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that we can't do 2 more Justice League movies?
Exactly.
Well, I'm looking at this Matt Reeves movie. This thing looks dark and morose, and I am down for every freaking minute of it.
Can I say this? Like, out of all the films that have done financially really well for, let's say since the Nolan films, the ones that have done really well, obviously, Batman v Superman still did well. It didn't do as well as everyone was expecting, but it still made quite a bit of money. It wasn't able to overcome the big investment that they had. But you got to remember, a lot of that investment in Batman v Superman was also investment paying forward to, all the stuff we were going to get with, Justice League and beyond that. But that one was did financially well. Suicide Squad did way better than everyone was expecting.
Without China.
These are 2 films that financially did pretty well. We're not going to talk about the margins. Obviously the margin on Batman v Superman was not as good. But then Joker did fantastic, right? And then we had Aquaman, which is like kind of like the anomaly. Oh, and then also Wonder Woman did quite well, considering that most of it was domestic. So like all these more serious takes, I think, have been the ones that have resonated the most, strangely enough. And so I just kind of feel like, somewhere along the line, they need to kind of recognize that, like, it's okay to not be chasing Marvel, that you can do your own thing. You can chart your own course. And then pretty soon, like, you'll be the thing that people will be chasing after.
Yeah.
As they were before 2008, because DC was it. As far, yes, of course, there was the Sony Spider-Man films, and yes, there was what Fox was doing with X-Men, but Marvel was splintered back then. You didn't have Marvel Studios at the time. What were they doing? Daredevil, Elektra, right? That kind of stuff. So it's like, all right, but yeah, it is. Even the films like, even when I look at like a film like Shazam or Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, I even look at those and, they have their humor, but they also have, both of those films have a good degree of heart to both of them. And in many ways, I feel like I can point to other reasons, other malfeasance on Warner Brothers' part as to why they underachieved. In Shazam's case, your early release was a week earlier than it should have been. You should have done 1 week like you did with Aquaman instead of 2 weeks. And you allowed it to get swallowed up by Avengers Endgame. That was stupid. That was really stupid. You should have put it up against Dark Phoenix in June. You'd have beaten them. That's what you should have done. And I could look at Birds of Prey and say February 8th, 2020. Yes, I know it avoided the pandemic narrowly, but you didn't really help that one out either, did you? Especially since it was rated R. So it is. Yeah. I can point to other reasons why even the other films that maybe fall out of line of the darker stuff are still like, well, no, they still can't get out of their own way. They still can't score in a whorehouse. Seriously, it's awful. And I don't know. So I
think that's the most frustrating part about this entire conversation is we just all want to be excited about what's coming next. And we just all don't know where the hell to sit because
George, like why? I swear they can talk about Godzilla versus Kong numbers after one day. They can talk about the Tina documentary after opening weekend. We are now a week we are now no, I think we're 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks to today of our recording after the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and nothing from HBO Max. Everything has come from third parties with weird numbers that we have no parity for to understand what does that mean.
Yeah.
We have no relativity to it. The best we're getting are from the foreign markets, from Crave and Binge and Sky, who are telling us, dude, it's been gangbusters for us.
It's starting to look embarrassing, isn't it?
It's been embarrassing.
But what I'm saying is, like, enough of this has come out now that, like, a lot of people are talking about it, not just like us. I mean, you had the Observer put out an article today just trying to summarize the data as best they can, of all the different little pieces of data to try to picture, like, it was successful or not. And so I mean, there's people are out there trying to figure this thing out, and for them to not respond is kind of damning.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I just don't get, like,
it's ludicrous
what's going on in the minds of the shareholders. Because if I were an AT&T shareholder, I would be, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Seriously.
Maybe we should start a trending event. Get the shareholders, like, what are we doing with this? Something.
The quarter. What? There's a quarter investment call coming up, and I really want somebody to.
Yeah. Should be in
tape
a few
that
weeks.
phone call. A little
Warner. I know, right?
So, something.
A little Warner Gate there. Actually,
please. That's a good hashtag.
There we go.
I love
hashtag Warner. Well, I mean, one that I actually have kind of, I keep trying, because this came up again today, and I keep trying to push this. Is this came up on fans, crazy enough, an idea that was sired not just by me but also by Brent. A conversation that we had, the idea of DC Studios, because we forwarded this idea, and it's crazy the way that this generated, because it came out of me having an incredulous reaction to somebody for the umpteenth time saying that DC needs a Kevin Feige. And the problem with saying that DC needs a Kevin Feige is the first way that most of us take it is carbon copy of the MCU, which, no, fuck you. We don't want that. That's not what we want. But there are a number of people, Brent included, who, when they say it, they don't mean completely carbon copy the MCU. What they mean is have somebody in charge of the studio that has the producing chops and also the knowledge and the respect for the lore and the source material to forward along an actual cohesive plan. And here's the thing, the problem with that is that a lot of times when people compare these companies, they tend to compare Warner Media and they tend to look at Disney as the studio. Disney's not the studio. Disney and Warner Media are on the same level as the parent companies of the studio. Marvel is its own studio, just like Lucasfilm is its own studio. Right, in the animation, Pixar, exactly. Whereas in DC's case, DC Films is a division of Warner Brothers, the studio. It's time for them to have their own studio, because there's too much evidence, at least from our end, over the last 5 years. Warner Brothers can't figure their ass from a hole in the ground with DC. It's their biggest IP by far. There's no other franchise in your stable that even comes close to the size, sorry Potter fans, of DC Comics. It is it. That is it. So this idea that, like, that's not your number one priority and you just keep fumbling the ball and acting like Lucy with the football with the rest of us for the last 5 years, no, that shit's not gonna fly. Like,
I've heard a lot of sayings in my life. I've never heard that one before, and that's fucking amazing. I can't. I'm trying to listen to the rest of what you're saying. That's just coming back to mind.
It's not mine. I got that from.
I love you, Ray.
Dana Gould, the stand-up comedian. But thank you. Yeah. No, it's just. But you know, you get what I'm saying. No, it's
true.
It's just
absolutely
insanely frustrating. So yeah, when stuff like what happens today, Tim, happens, and we were talking in the chat. We're like, okay, why did he post that? Right? Because like all the, because not only did the the cancellation of New Gods come down, but Ava and Tom King started like stoking the fire on Twitter. I don't know if you saw any of it. They started teasing details.
Yeah,
about like
Tom's. Yep.
Right. And it's like, okay, you guys are being you guys are being a little snarky about this. And don't get me wrong, I do appreciate it on that level, but you really are not happy that this occurred. Okay. So then in the middle of that snark, like however long later, Zack posts that picture. And it's like, and we were talking in the group, like, so wait a minute, that's what's going on with them. And like I said, I don't know what his relationship with Tom King is. But everyone has told me that Deborah loves Ava. So and I have also believed for a good while that when it comes to the whole Snyder Cut situation, I do believe that creatives in Hollywood and DCEU creatives, I do believe that they sympathize with Zack. I do. I think that they all sympathize with the scenario and they know how mean and cold Hollywood can be. And I think that they are genuinely happy that he was able to get a chance that any one of them would die for in a similar situation. Right.
Right.
So I really don't think there's any animosity between him and other creatives in Hollywood. I don't think that at all. So for him to post that, it just leads you to believe Tom and Ava aren't going to be pissed at him about it. But then why did he post it?
But why did he put? Yeah, it's hard to try to read these tea leaves. But yeah, I had that same question. I'm sitting there trying to parse it. I'm like, okay, what did he post it because of this reason or did he post it because of that reason? And in the end, I'm just like, I need to just step back and not try to figure this thing out. It is what it is.
He doesn't really post spiteful things like that. Like even with like, I mean, he said things about like what's going on in Joss Whedon. Like when someone asked him a question about this certain detail, like what the fuck, what are you talking about? But like he never. I could be wrong, I guess, but I don't remember him ever posting anything that like seemed like a picture that was a direct stab at, Jeff Johns or Joss Whedon, which it seems like that would be the people you would, be snarky to. It doesn't seem like it would be the people that were going to be doing a New Gods movie. You know what I mean? Like it seems like that wouldn't be a jab you're trying to take. Yeah, I would think there'd be a different motive. He doesn't. I feel like he doesn't do anything by like, he just happened to post this picture today. He seems pretty with it. So it's not a coincidence. It can't be.
I mean, he could also be upset because clearly he knows what was happening when they stripped out all the New God stuff from him, back in 2017. And then, a year later, what the exact timing is, but like, that's when Ava, basically got the reins of the New Gods and the Fourth World Story, Zack wouldn't, it's not that Zack is going to hold that against Ava. I mean, she's just doing it because, I mean, she's a creative just like he is, This could be more so like a jab at the studio, or the people that, made that decision. And this could very well be one of these things like, did he post this because he won like in his battle? I would love to think that might be what that is. I hate that it's at the expense of Ava. I feel terrible for her and Tom King and all the work that they put in. I feel terrible about it, but it's not their fault,
Right.
So
no, and this is where I start lifting the desk up without my hands when we start talking about this kind of stuff. It's one thing that pops to mind, and it does every time, is just how quiet Keelar's been through all of this, in particular because even when he couldn't say a ton about certain things coming out, sometimes he would find one or two things that somebody would send to him and just say like, you guys are awesome. We see the love and support that you guys are doing. We're excited to show you guys some of the ideas and stuff that we're working on. And it's like, it's been nothing from him regarding any of that stuff. And it sure is like, it's a little bit of stuff here and there about the HBO stuff that they've been talking about recently, but nothing about that. And that I always just at the end of the day come back to like, I'm just trying to hold off until I hear him say something first. But when he says something, I feel like it's going to be just definitive one way or the other. Like,
you got to remember with him too. Like, I mean, he's been walking on eggshells with the Hollywood side of things as well, because he's an outsider. He's already
Yeah.
had to, he's already pissed off a lot of people because of the decision that they made about, moving
The
all
hybrid decision.
the hybrid decision. Yeah. I mean, so I think he's going to be much more calculated now in terms of like making sure he understands what the plans are, because so there's one of two things that have happened. Either, when this Ann Sarnoff article came out, is it the old guard, the old Warner Brothers side of things, that part of it, the non-streaming avenues of delivery of all these products, was that kind of done independent with Keelar? Or so it's either that, and Keelar was kind of like, well, wait a minute, we should be thinking about like not just the distribution out in the theatrical side, but also like this delivery through HBO Max. So either he was not fully on board with it, or maybe he is fully on board with it, and
Yeah.
and okay, this is the decision that they made internally, and this is how they're going to move forward. But again, it goes back to like I kind of feel like even if that was a decision that was made ahead of time, I feel like with the
After the
reception of this
18th.
film after the 18th, like I think they have to reassess.
Well,
what
and
they're
they
doing.
also, after looking at the numbers that were put out the following week with Restore the Snyderverse and stuff too, those numbers those impressions and engagements online do not go away. And you can't just sit there and ignore that. I mean, facts are facts, and the fact that Justice League was the most tweeted about Warner Brothers movie before it was even released, and now, yeah, I mean, the numbers doubled itself that day pretty much. It was like, it's insane. Those are insane numbers, and that's again leads us back to the frustration aspect of things, because it's like these numbers are not. They had to ask Twitter to essentially take them off the trend thing on the sidebar so they could have their paid advertisement show up, because all that was popping up was Zack Snyder's Justice League, Restore the Snyderverse, release the Ayer cut. It's like, what the hell, man? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, it's just saying it's all of what we're talking about here. It's just it's dumb, man. In the real estate business, that'd be like us owning a property that's like that is the property that rents the quickest. It's our highest rental rate. And instead we just decide, no, we're going to sit on this. We're going to let it sit vacant. And we're just going to lose. I don't know. We're just going to let it sit for the foreseeable future. And we're just going to continue to just let money fly out the window.
And our lack of information, that's why I did, that you brought up earlier, Jordan, that piece from the UK, what is it, small screen, whatever that was, right? That I have had one mutual has called it the "we got this covered" of Britain. So it's like, well, that's not a good, not good.
That's not a good comparison.
Not at all. But you're right. You read the piece, and the problem that we run into is you read what it says, and your brain wants an answer. You want an answer. You want to fill in the blanks. You're like, why is this happening? Why is that happening?
But the other problem with that too, Ray, though, is you read the piece like we all did, and then you look at it and go, yeah, that's believable.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's the other problem is not only do we want to fill in the blanks, but based on what we've seen, the blanks aren't that difficult to fill. So it's like,
well, here's the other thing too. Like we've all been struggling, like, why don't we see the data? And we're getting these little bits and pieces, like, the Crave and Sky and the other ones. Like, we're seeing that like this thing is being well received, like all over. Like it's putting up big numbers, and we're not hearing from HBO Max, but we can talk about internally here. We've got our own numbers in this network.
Yeah.
And I put out a nice graph, and we don't talk publicly about what our download totals are. So I broke it down in terms of a bar chart where I compare the download numbers, without saying what they are, but show what it is relative from film to film. I mean, and we've talked about these numbers internally here, guys. I mean, we haven't seen this since 2017 with Wonder Woman.
No,
we have not seen this. It's like I think we broke. Let me do the quick math here. We broke our all-time download record in a month, and this is actually in a month when we actually put out less content than we normally put out. But we broke our all-time download number by a good 15% just in this month. And so, but not just that. If you, I mean, you look at that bar chart, and you can go to my Twitter feed. I posted it out there, but like it's striking, you know, as this network was building up, and as the fan base was building up, and people were recognizing, like, hey, there's, you know, like the fans that had like mine were gravitating towards, you know, what we were largely doing as a network. You could see it growing with film to film, and it was just a dead zone the last 3 years when it came to the fan enthusiasm, and we didn't see the enthusiasm, we didn't feel it, we didn't have the kind of interactions we used to have with our fans. We certainly saw it in our numbers, and you can see that in my graph that shows exactly, it's representative of what we're actually seeing. But like what we've seen in the last 2 weeks has been like, people are excited. They feel like this is going somewhere. They want to see how this ends.
Well, and the engagement online has been, that's all that it's been, is positive regarding this. And again, that's the most frustrating part, because we're like, damn it, if you were just patient, you would have gotten everything that you wanted.
You know, it just, and you know, I have to.
You would have been done with Zack's vision already. You could have been and done your own thing.
I keep going back to that too. I don't want to elaborate, but Jordan, I'm with you. I keep thinking that. I'm like, I think all the movies would have been out at this point.
They would have.
You know?
They would have.
And so we're like, not now again, this another conversation, but I think that time has been kind to Snyder always, and this is no exception, but that's a whole other side of things. Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Well, no, it's just, you know, with respect to that, it's like I have to be careful, because, you know, one of the things that has come out, you know, because not everybody likes the film. You do have detractors, and there are plenty of people that just doubled down on their hatred that they've been spewing and their bile for the last 5 years. And one of the things that has kind of come out of that is this whole idea of, you know, the classic 4 hours is too long. There's no way that you could have shown this in the theater. So, you know, so it's led to this statement of there's got to be a 2 hour and 15 minute or a 2.5 hour long version of this film somewhere. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't know where that is. I don't care to know, but sure, let's say that there was. Fine. It's still like, I feel like even within, and I don't ask me to figure out what I would take out of this movie, because I'm gonna say no. I don't need to do that. But like, let's say that, you know, they hit. We're talking about the studio, you know, because there's an argument I have with Brent all the time with respect to like the collaborative process of making a film, and the idea that there is the creator's vision, but then there's also the pragmatism of the production. So generally speaking, through the collaborative process of filmmaking, you come to there's somewhere in the middle. You meet in the middle, right? Concessions are made on both sides. The producer bends to the director bends to the producer. Perhaps there are things that they really felt strongly about, but decided, hey, I'll push that aside for this, right? And generally speaking, the film that you see is agreed to by all parties, mostly, right? It's usually not what happened with this film, right? So understanding that, it's like, you know, this isn't the standard process. You know, like if they had just, if you go back and say, well, you know, what if Warner Brothers hadn't been so knee jerk about BVS? You know, what if what if they had looked at those reviews and they said, okay, well, those reviews hurt, and Zack himself has said they hurt. He said they bothered him. All right, but hey, we contracted this guy to do Justice League. Like, he's going to film it within months. Let's just stay the course and trust him to, you know, ride this thing out. It's not like the movie lost money, because the movie did not lose money. Hey, let's just keep on going. So yeah, the version that we would have gotten in 2017 wouldn't have been 4 hours and 2 minutes, but it still would have been 2.5 hours better than what we ended up getting. That cost them upwards of $300 million 3.5 years ago, right? And I had to argue with somebody who told me that part of the reason that they're hesitant about greenlighting sequels for it is because a Justice League sequel would cost $300 million. Why would it cost $300 million? Because the first one cost $300 million. Read the story. It's not why it cost $300 million. But like, But yeah, there's definitely this idea of if the collaborative process had maintained, if it had just been normal, we're not even asking for Warner Brothers to make concessions or bend over backwards to Zack Snyder. If it had just been normal Hollywood collaborative process, none of this happens.
No.
And they get to this point 3.5 years ago, and he does the second film. Because I still believe that had they stayed that course, had it been normal, and a 2.5 hour long version of this film would come out, I don't know that it would have been as freshly reviewed, but I do think it would have been far more accessible than either Man of Steel or BVS was. I most certainly believe that, because I see the progression of where it was building to. Yeah. So it's just like, I think that's like the biggest. But what the fuck with me?
That's the thing. You were building this fan base. You were building this universe. Man of Steel obviously was the solo film. There was nothing else attached to it. But then, it led to Batman v Superman, led to Suicide Squad, led to Wonder Woman in 2017. And it could have led to Justice League. Like, these films were clearly, something was building up, and we were seeing the enthusiasm in our fan base. Like, people were getting excited, and they just blew it. They just blew it all apart by making a little cul-de-sac of a movie in Justice League, 2017, which went nowhere and basically shattered all the promises you had that we were building up to something. And
I'm looking at what their original slate was supposed to be. So, like,
don't do that.
It would have all.
It'll hurt.
Oh,
don't do that to yourself.
Oh, well, it hurts.
The thing is, too, they wanted this immersive universe. They would have gotten it. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League Part 1, The Flash, Aquaman, Shazam.
Cyborg was in there too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cyborg was in there.
And then Cyborg.
Oh, Cyborg.
And then
that's
Green
right.
Lantern. And then Green Lantern Corps.
And then there was a Justice League 2, and then there was a solo Batman film, solo Superman film that were supposed to fall in or somewhere.
Yeah.
Fall in there. And then Justice League 3 happens.
Yeah.
And then after, you do whatever you want. If you want to retire Henry Cavill Superman, you do it. If you want to continue on with him, you could do that too.
I mean, at that,
we know they blew it.
I mean, at that point, he would have had 2 solo films, a team up with Batman, and 3 Justice League movies. That's more than fucking enough.
Yeah,
as far as like for his performance, like, that's part of the reason why you see people like ourselves clamoring for more of Henry Cavill. But this is also a great segue into another question that I have with respect to what you just brought up, Jordan, with that schedule.
Yeah.
Because I asked this question on Twitter about it a little before we started recording, because if we go down the list, and people have asked this particular question before, not the one that I'm about to ask, but a different question in terms of what is the DC project that was canceled that you really like, that really bugged you when it got canceled? And, people have come up with, the Cyborg movie, and the Nightwing fans have cut, with that movie. Mine is Black Hawks, because that was going to bring Steven Spielberg into the flipping DCEU. Which means he probably would have brought John Williams with him. We'd have had John Williams score in the DCEU, and Sammy would have come back from Wonder Woman. It's like but you look at the list, and of course Joe Manganiello, who sees some kind of blood in the water and just will not shut up about Deathstroke.
That's the other one that's got me wondering.
Right? He you don't. That's the thing, Tim. You don't do that unless you think there's a shot. You really don't. So he sees something and just will not stop talking about Deathstroke.
He's been relentless for the last couple of weeks here. So
it's not like he's been on small platforms either, because he was just on. Wasn't he just on Good Morning America?
Yeah, or ET. He was also on ET. He was on ET too.
Yeah.
So the question I asked, because it's like we've seen a lot of these projects come up, and there's this perception now, especially with what happened today with New Gods in the Trench, this perception that one of Warner Brothers' tactics, if you will, is to immediately announce a project for optics. And so that led me to question, when we talk about the stuff, this plan that they have for the future, the Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie with, they've never officially said a black Superman, but they just assume because the writer's black Black Super, or because and Michael B. Jordan, Black
That's
Superman,
been
right?
out there for a
Okay,
while, yeah.
right. So, what's your confidence level that that's even going to exist? That's even going to see the light of day? Like, doesn't it just feel like, especially like, and I'll throw this in there too. Doesn't it just feel like, in the wake of all this stuff with the Snyder Cut, and in the wake of Ray Fisher and Adria Tucker, oh, let's find the best black writer out there now and attach him to J.J. Abrams, who just did Lovecraft Country with Jordan Peele, and say, hey, we're doing a Black Superman movie along with a Blue Beetle movie. We're diverse. Doesn't it just seem like PR now? Like those movies are never going to happen, are they?
Like it. They were already
kinda feels
diverse.
like it.
I made this point. Like, you got to remember when it came to Suicide Squad, it had it not only was it diverse as a cast, from the cinema score, from different ethnicities and all that, it was like through the roof with some of the younger audience, and then from Hispanic and I think from the Black community as well, if I remember right. It's been a long time since we talked about it. Yeah,
I think you're right.
The scores were fantastic. It was like some of the best that they've ever had.
I mean, Will Smith was in the movie, so that's a draw for Black. Will Smith and Viola Davis.
And
those
Viola
are
Davis,
absolutely draws. Yes, for sure.
Well, and then I mean, we didn't say Jay Hernandez.
Zack Snyder's Justice League too. Then you think about that. That's
Yeah.
another frustrating aspect that we won't have to talk about if we don't want to. But
I mean, if we're talking about
egregious.
if we're talking about established diversity in the DCEU, both of you are right there. Birds of Prey, come on now.
Yeah.
The diversity
for
there.
sure.
Diversity is already there. Yeah.
I can even look at Shazam and talk about how diverse the family is.
Yeah.
Right?
I still need to get me I shave my balls t-shirt.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah,
Speaking of diversity.
and even, you know what, even looking at some of the other, like, I'll tell you right now, as far as the, what I hate this term, but they're calling it the Hamadaverse. The stuff that is not connected to Snyder's work necessarily, even though it is all indirectly connected because he started it. But like, of the slate of DC movies that we know is coming out, the one that's probably the highest on my radar now is Black Adam. And you look at how diverse that cast and crew are, not just The Rock, not just Aldous Hodge, not just what's her name from Castle. Not Castle. I forget what show she's in, but Sarah Shahi is her real name. But also the director, Jamie Kalatsuna. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. But like, yes, when diversity occurs organically, or even Andy Muschietti on The Flash, like, and who he's now cast, Sasha Kaye, as Supergirl. Let your filmmakers take care of that. Let your creatives do that naturally.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. And so it did not start with them, and but it just feels to me like, when the second I heard Ta-Nehisi Coates doing a Superman film, there was totally a voice in the back of my head going, "That's not going to happen." And I don't know. Listen, I'm not rooting against it. I'm not saying, I'm not rooting. I kind of hope it does happen. I would like to. I don't want it to cancel Cavill out, but it's a multiverse for frick's sake. Like, just go ahead and do
a story.
Val Zod or Calvin Ellis, whoever it is. But unfortunately, Warner Brothers' track record leads me to believe that it's just another PR stunt. Yeah. It's just more optics.
Yeah, I want to see Rick Famuyiwa come back and have another shot.
He should do Cyborg.
I would love to see him do Cyborg. Like, this is the time to do it. Like, don't sit there and throw out this little PR bullshit saying, we're diverse because we're going to be doing this. Like, I mean, you pulled Rick off the project, you pulled Ava off this project, and there might be legitimate reasons to decide not to do a New Gods film that she was attached to. Like, I'm not saying it's because of anything, but like, certainly the optics are not looking great here. No. So
no. Oh, frustrating, fellas.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we need to wrap this one up. Because
let's wrap it up with some positivity. At the end of the day,
yes,
this film wound up being fucking amazing, and
it was fucking amazing.
I think it was, and it ranks for me. I put it at the top of my list. Man of Steel was number 1 beforehand, but everything has since shifted down. Zack Snyder's Justice League has taken over the top mantle because, like you guys said, there's a weird I think I said this in the text message. I like log in to HBO Max and I go on over to Batman v Superman and I'll go to hit play and I'll find myself just scroll right over to Zack Snyder's Justice League and instead just play that one instead. And I don't know why.
It's like it's a complete film. Top to bottom.
I told you
package.
I have a real problem. Here's the thing, guys. We've been talking about this for over an hour and a half. And you know how I know that for certain? Because I've had the movie going the entire time that we've been playing. I am now at the point where Victor is talking to Diana for the first time.
Yeah,
it's been Awesome. It's been right here playing the entire time we have been talking. I haven't officially put out an updated graphic for. It's been like a year or two since I've done a list for the DCEU, but I will do one soon. And this is number one.
That's where I was when I stopped before we started coming in here. Right there. There you go.
There you go.
That's perfect.
Fantastic.
Chris, where's this at on your
Zeitgeist.
list? Where's Zack Snyder's Justice League on your list?
I mean, that's what I was kind of sort of getting at earlier. It was like, it's hard to really say because like BVS has such a special.
It's your first love.
Yeah, it's like
in a way,
that coming out made me really dive back into Man of Steel and like, and I liked Man of Steel already, but like really deep dive into that movie and everything like that made me get back into comic books and all that stuff. So it has this special place in a certain time in my life. And again, Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League is just like this whole other experience. You know what I mean?
It is. It's different.
I think the experience of this movie, everything surrounding it, and everybody that's diving in it together. I mean, I think all of that puts it at the top for me, because the movie itself is just this grand thing, and it's just beautiful to look at, and it's crazy to get on HBO Max and see that it's there and it exists and it's here, and I can watch it anytime I fucking want to. And it's such a joyful thing, and I think that my brain's just not used to that when it comes to Zack Snyder movies, because it's like, wow, like I'm not even like hearing the detractors in my head at this point. Like it's just I can just take it in. That puts it at the top of my list. But they do I?
As all four of us have it at number one, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Now in terms of
Scott's never going to say that Batman v Superman is not number one, because I mean his favorite comic book of all time is The Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
So I mean it's understandable.
And to build on that, Tim, this is one of those cases where if someone says, like, if you ask this question to like any of our listeners or to any of our mutuals, like, what is the best DCEU film? What's your favorite DCEU film? Which can be two different answers, but I will not argue with someone that says Man of Steel. I will not argue with someone that says Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. It's not an argument I am willing to have, because the three of them are. That is a wonderful trilogy. That is a wonderful set of films, and any one of them could be. I could, if they're at the top of anyone's list, any one of them I would completely understand. Even if this one is atop our list, if I see a list, Man of Steel at the top or another one, BVS at the top, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it this way: how lucky are we that we got literally Nolan to Snyder to what will be a Reeves, hopefully, if things all go the right way.
Yep.
That's incredible, man.
I'd love to believe his trilogy is going to be solid, but you just don't know, do you? You just don't know.
I like what I've seen so far.
I think I know Paul Dano's Riddler is going to be the shit. That is what that's like the role I'm the most, I'm really intrigued also by Colin Farrell and, by Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman.
Farrell is the one that I'm like most. Obviously, like I just want to see Pattinson. I just want to see his Bruce Wayne. I want to see his. Like what. I want to see what he does in that role, and I also want to see the chemistry between him and Serkis. I want to see how that works, right? But but apart from that, the one that the actor I'm most curious about from the others is Colin Farrell. The fact that he was unbelievably unrecognizable. Like,
and
you know,
I think the part of it that makes it exciting too is like thinking back to the old storyboard conversation that we had, and like I think of Paul Dano's Riddler. What if he was in a like Snyder's world? We obviously haven't seen him yet, but he also would have been a good choice for a Riddler in the Snyderverse. Like, could see that scene taking place and just being like, because we know how that all plays out, and just being like, like. Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said though, the trailer looks amazing.
I gotta go watch that trailer again after as soon as we get done here. I'm gonna go watch it again.
Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a little bit since I've seen it.
Tim, have you seen the animated? Somebody animated.
I saw it. Yeah,
just about to say that. I saw it for the first time today, and I was like,
really
"Damn, dude!"
Have you guys seen? Have you guys seen the Lego version?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Lego version's great. The Lego version's great too. That's some great stop motion there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's real good stuff.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be live. All right, guys, we're gonna close this one out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is our first chance to kind of get together as a group. Sorry, Scott.
Sorry,
left.
real quick, Scott. Where's what's your last thoughts on this?
He left. He hates our patrons. So
I was gonna say he left like 40 minutes ago.
He hates you guys. I don't know. Something came up, so we're gonna sign off without him. But anyway, guys, again, thanks for as always. Thanks again for all the support. We wish we could do this more often. It's tough. I mean, this is the first time we've all gotten together in a while. So
at some point we got to figure out the commentary. We got to figure that out because that's
we're gonna do that.
I would dearly love to watch this film with you guys.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Since watch number 10 is happening for me right now.
So the commentary track from us, I just feel like it's just gonna be all of us like, oh, this is right here all at the same time. And this one right here, the music right there, it's just like this chaotic orchestra of just crazy.
That'll be the fun of it though. It'll just I think it's more for us so that we can all watch it together.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So we're planning that. We're gonna do a 4-hour plus commentary track of the 5 of us. Sorry, there's a missing man formation. Brent will not be a part of this. he's not a big fan of the direction this is going, which is fine. You know, it's all subjective.
It's all subjective.
Yeah. But the 5 of us love it, and we're gonna put together a 5 person commentary track. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we said we're gonna start it at like 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
Or maybe
seems
9.
about right.
Yeah, we can. We'll figure it out. We have a couple. Actually, just 2 people on Central, Chris and Scott, and then the rest of us are Eastern.
Rest of us are Eastern. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So we'll figure it out. But guys, that's coming. Just hang tight. We're gonna try to figure out when to do that. But obviously, it's gonna be a big commitment. But we're all in. We want to do it.
Yep.
So. Okay, guys.
It'll be a good time.
Yep. All right. So we're gonna sign off.
All right.
All right.
See you guys. Thank you.
See ya.